Hey guys, it's Friday here, which means one thing. It's time for another episode of VGC Off The Record, where we discuss all the big news from the week in video games. My name is Steven McInerney, and I'm your host today, and alongside me is the tired old hack himself, Chris Scullion. How are you doing, my friend? You good?
Yeah, good. Got my second vaccine, so party time. All good.
You're all Bill Gates up. You're ready
For
to
now,
be,
yeah.
you're ready to be optimal at Microsoft games. I would take it, by the way. I would take being controlled if it meant I was really good at Halo or something like that.
I mean, basically, all I'll say, if anyone hears like a hiss during this broadcast, it's just my 5G just kind of calibrating. It's not fully set up yet, but
tenuously linked to Microsoft news. I got a Series X today. Boom.
Oh, excellent!
I've been waiting.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I went. I don't know how I'm justifying that with a wedding and a house in the way, but I got the all access stuff. So I went this morning on game.co.uk. Hopefully, just looking, hopefully, and it was there available. I don't know when it's going to turn up. Games. Do you know when you don't get an email confirmation for a while and you're like, please turn up. I got it only like about 3 hours afterwards, which is a little bit nerve-wracking if I'm being honest. And there's no delivery date on it yet, but I got one apparently.
That's
so
good.
fingers crossed it'll turn up pretty soon because I want to play all those games, man. I've been watching, especially your clips of you've been playing Flight Simulator, haven't you? I think from what I can tell, and your review of Descent as well. It's made me want it a big lot. I know you've been playing as well. You started a new strand over on VGC, like a Let's Play series. First impressions or something like that. I can't
First
remember
play, yeah.
First play, that was it. And do you want to tell us what you've been playing?
Yes, I would love to. Basically, obviously we get, being like a fairly big website, we get a lot of kind of review codes sent to us quite regularly, and there's just aren't enough hours in the day to cover them all, because when you do a proper review, you have to play the full game to completion and then write it. It takes quite a long time, so you just can't cover it, and that's why on a lot of sites that the kind of the AAA stuff always gets covered, but then the stuff that's kind of just under the radar, there's just no time for it for the most part. So we've started this first.
It's justification for what you're about to say.
So we started this new series called First Play, which isn't like revolutionary. It's not like we've come up with this amazing new idea. It's literally the first 20 minutes to an hour of games we get sent, where we just set up the capture card and run the mic, keep the mic on, and then just react to the games as we play them, with the hope being that people watching it will kind of discover these games as we do at the same time. So our debut was
a minute and a half of preface here just for this.
It's just a minute and a half of apologies in advance for our first video's up now, and it's lawn mowing simulator on Series X, Series S, and PC. Not on standard Xbox One. I'll have you know it can't handle it.
4K 60 FPS, the 120 FPS maybe, I don't know.
Real-time grass physics. So yeah, it's certainly a game. I
watched about 7 minutes of it yesterday. I didn't watch the full 20 minutes, I'll be honest, because as you succinctly put, it probably isn't a spectator sport, but I can imagine it is quite what's the word? I don't know. It's almost like yoga, like relaxing and just therapeutic and all that kind of stuff. As well, because I'm getting a Series X soon. If you ever do anything like that, give me a message and I'll be able to jump on and we'll do a voice chat and we'll review some lawns together. Tom Nook's lawn in particular. Go watch that. The First Play. There'll be a series obviously over in VGC, and we'll be chatting about plenty of new games. Not the one that always gets the big reviews, but sometimes you want to see those little games that become cult classics for a reason. So
yeah, we've got some good stuff. We've got some good stuff lined up already. Obviously, we still have to adhere to
spoilers?
We're fans of certain 90s era Ninja Ants might be happy with one that's coming up. So
that's the most niche thing. If you're a fan of Ninja Ants from the 90s,
and
this is the home for you.
Basically, anyone who knows Zool already knows I'm talking about Zool, so I might as well say that. Yeah, we'll be doing one on that. But
in my head, I always get Zool and Cool Spot mixed up. Do you remember Cool Spot?
Very similar.
It was a different game entirely. Oh, these different, but I can't remember. But I just associate them. I loved a bit of Cool Spot. I don't think he'll be coming back anytime soon, will he? Probably not. Anyway, waffle aside, you can go check out that video. Obviously, it's on the channel right now. There'll be a link on screen. I might have even put a clip on screen. I don't really know if I did or not. But if so, go check out some lovely... Is it in 4K? I don't know. Is it in 4K?
Shiny 4K and 60 frames per second. So
4K 60 FPS lawn mowing.
Don't mess
That
about.
is what you're here for. And no messing about on this channel. Anyway, guys, this is VGC, where we go off the record to deliver you guys some of the most considered, most informative takes on the big stories from across the world of video games. If you find this and you like looking at our faces, chatting about lawnmowers, you can subscribe to us on our YouTube channel and get these videos every Friday afternoon. Of course, they are available on all the major podcast providers as well, so you can listen to us as you're mowing the lawn yourself or doing your dishes and all that kind of thing. So you don't have an excuse basically to miss out. But today we got a whole bunch of things to talk about away from the lawn world. We've got Rockstar, who are reportedly bringing a remastered GTA trilogy to all systems, including the Switch. We're going to chat a little bit about the Sonic 2 movie and an interesting casting for Knuckles. PlayStation Plus may reportedly add a new premium tier, including Crunchyroll, and we're going to talk a little bit about WWE 2K 2022, which has been claimed to be looking fantastic from someone who works for the company, of course, which is always interesting. But there's only one place we can really start. We're going to have to start with the GTA news, because obviously that has been all over the internet. I'm going to read this piece, which you can find over on videogameschronicle.com, written by our own Chris Scullion. That's that right here. And it goes, Rockstar is preparing to release remastered versions of 3 classic GTA games, according to reports that match what VGC has heard from our own sources. Kotaku reports that remasters of Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and San Andreas are in development at Rockstar Dundee and are in the final stages of development. It's reported that the remasters are being planned for all systems, including the Nintendo Switch, which would see third-person GTA coming to a Nintendo console for the first time. The report corroborates information VGC has recently received from its own sources, which also suggested the remasters were in development. Rockstar Dundee, formerly known as Ruffian Games, until it was acquired by Take-Two in October 2020, renamed to make it part of the Rockstar family. The studio is also reportedly helping with the development of the upcoming next-gen version of GTA 5, which is set for release on November the 11th. GTA parent Take-Two had previously confirmed that it was working on 3 and now it's remastered the previous release games. So basically, the reports and suggestions is that these are those games. How does this leave you feeling? And obviously VGC has corroborated with its own sources as well. So is the general vibe that this is pretty much true within the VGC camp and obviously the wider industry?
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way. I mean, obviously sources can, on rare occasions, be wrong. Not through kind of vindictive reasons, but just because plans change from time to time, and these things happen. Especially in recent times, a lot of plans have been changing, so a lot of sources' information has become less accurate.
Yeah, of course.
Through no fault of their own. But it certainly seems like this is kind of, from what we've been hearing and from now what other people are reporting, it seems like this is what's been in the works, and it's exciting, I think. I mean, granted, this isn't the first time these games have been remastered already. They've been the kind of PS2 version was kind of remastered a bit and put on PS3, PS4, I think. But I think the big news is the Switch, because other than a really bad Game Boy Color version of Grand Theft Auto 2 and Chinatown Wars on the DS, this is the first time proper third person over the shoulder GTA has been on a Nintendo system, if this comes to fruition. So to have 3 of the best ones.
That's a bucket list, isn't it? Thing in general, GTA on the Switch. I mean, since the popularity of the Switch was apparent, people have been wanting this for ages. They want it for very obvious reasons. There's not many things better than imagine just sitting on your commute and you're playing San Andreas. It just sounds incredible, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I think some people were hoping for GTA 5 on Switch, and that's not to say that's not to say that's not coming one day. There's the internet's always great at saying, why do we have this instead of that, when there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say they both aren't being worked on. It's just for now, presumably a potential GTA 5 on Switch might rely on how well these ones sell, because if there's proof that there is love for Grand Theft Auto from Nintendo owners, then there's nothing to stop Rockstar saying, okay, brilliant, well, let's go and put everything on there. I mean, they already tested the water with LA Noire a while back, so they're not averse to putting old games on the Switch. So we'll see. I think for me, San Andreas is the exciting one, although Vice City was my favourite. We've already had handheld GTA 3 and Vice City on the PSP with the Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories, so this is the first time technically San Andreas is handheld, I'm pretty sure. So that's exciting. but yeah, I'm up for it. I just can't wait to play them all again.
I'm hoping they are. I mean, this is a personal thing, and I think some people will probably disagree on this because the purity of the games needs to be protected and all that kind of stuff. But my argument is based around the fact that we've got loads of remasters and all that kind of stuff, and I'm hoping they have put a bit of time into it, and I'm hoping we do see a bit of maybe an up-res with some textures and so on, and maybe some of the old mechanics smoothing out. Because I mean, if you go back to GTA 3, that game don't play too good in some ways. No. Like the shooting is a mess. The action, it's I saw someone on Twitter compare it to Stormtrooper shooting, and that literally that sums it up for me. It is janky. It is janky because it's an older game, and of course it was a transition into the 3D, GTA, and there was always going to be some rough edges there when you go back to it, especially given the polish of GTA 5. And I'm personally hoping, it is more than just that. And it has been suggestions as well. Some of the reports suggested that the games are being made in Unreal Engine. I don't know if is it 5? Is it currently Unreal Engine 5? Is it? There's a new one, isn't there? Whatever the new one is. Yeah, but 5's not out yet, is it?
Yeah.
It's out yet, the 5. I don't even know what it is.
Isn't there's preview versions that people are working away on. We've not had
a Unreal 5 game. It'll be in 4.
Yeah. If that's the case, then yeah, I'm not entirely sure what they're making it in. But yeah, I mean, you'd imagine they've got to do something with it because they can't just get away with up-resing that and leaving it at that.
Oh, they probably could.
Well, they could get away with it, to be fair. I mean, for me, bare minimum, as long as it keeps most of the soundtrack. If it ran at 60, that would be nice. And you would imagine a game that old should be, even on the Switch, they should be able to handle 1080p at 60 frames a second. If they do nothing more than
Breath of the Wild can, well, Breath of the Wild couldn't actually.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But they should be able to make it work because it's not.
If they're not improving the textures or anything like that, and they're literally just up-resing it should be able to handle that. But it depends what they do. If they might, not that I'm expecting this, but they might go full Mafia remastering properly.
Would you like that? Personally, I would. I think I'd want to see a conversion.
I'd up for that. I mean, the games exist already. If you want to play GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, they're there. They're not going anywhere. So it'd be nice to see kind of a new version on them. But if Ruffian, it depends when Ruffian started work on them. If they only started work when they became Rockstar Dundee, then that's only been a year. So I don't imagine they've gone wild with it. So it depends on when they actually started on the project.
And they're allegedly meant to be out this year. Is that right?
So they say, allegedly. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, like I say, plans changing. For all we know, we're going to look like idiots a year from now when it turned out it wasn't actually happening at all. But certainly, everything we've been hearing suggests it is. It's just a case of waiting and for some sort
there's
of
enough noise. I think there's enough noise. I mean, there's something happening somewhere. I mean, obviously with the internet and just with life, given the pandemic and so on, things slip, things change, plans do change, and it's the same in pretty much any industry. Things can be true at one moment, but not true the next. Not because it could literally be they're making these, and then one day the big boss walks in and goes, "Now we're putting them out next year," and all of a sudden all those accurate reports are just wrong like that, and that's no one's fault, because that's how life can be sometimes. I'm looking forward to this though. I mean, I'm hoping that there is a lot of effort gone into these, simply because, as we said, we've already got the other versions. They're everywhere. They're not hard to find if you want to play, the originals. They're there and they're available. But I do want to see these games. I do want the soundtracks. The soundtracks are crucial, aren't they, to the memories of those games? They have to be there, man. They have to be. And but the classic GTA as a trilogy, allegedly being sold as a trilogy, if it happens, which would be interesting. Almost like a 3D All Stars kind of vibe, isn't it? If that happened, I would enjoy it. I would enjoy it, and it would sell like hotcakes. Let's be honest, especially if they put a little bit of effort into it. There's been nothing really yet on the GTA 5 yet, has there? The remaster. I mean, they kept that other than announcing it, they kept it close to the chest, haven't they?
Yeah, and even when they announced it, like that trailer probably wasn't footage from the remaster.
No, I don't think it was.
When they first announced it, it looked like PS4 quality.
If it was footage, we would have seen more by now, surely, because the lack of footage suggests that wasn't the footage, because if they had nothing to hide, they'd be showing more. Does that make sense? Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Rockstar like a grandiose trailer, so you got to imagine that one day it'll be here it comes, and then it'll just explode, and you'll see the full cinematic 4-minute trailer just showing absolutely shitloads of all the new stuff that's been added to it. So I'd imagine that they'll just keep everyone waiting, and then just go, and that'll be it, party time.
One of the biggest hype I've ever had for a trailer is when they dropped the Red Dead one, and I remember just when it showed all the vistas and all that kind of stuff. I was like, they know how to do it. They know how to do it, Rockstar. They really do. Next on this list, we're going to talk a little bit about Sonic. Sonic 2, the movie. The story, basically, I've got the wrong tab up in here. 1 second. Here we go. British actor Idris Elba looks to be voicing Knuckles in the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog movie sequel. On Tuesday, the Suicide Squad and Pacific Rim star published an image of Knuckles' trademark gloves on social media, along with the hashtags Sonic Movie 2 and Knuckles. Paramount Pictures announced earlier this year that Sonic 2 movie would be released on April the 8th, 2022, following the original box office success. And in April, photos taken on the set of the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie showed Knuckles for the first time alongside characters Sonic and Tails. Idris Elba posted on social media basically just Knuckles is Knuckles and knock knock, which I love it for what it's worth. I mean, I'd never in a million years expected Knuckles to be Idris Elba, but it feels kind of inspired to me, actually. I kind of like it. There's a gravitas that you get with Idris Elba. He always brings this edge and this kind of, he's such a strong personality, a fantastic actor. For me, he'll always be the guy from The Wire, because it's one of the greatest TV shows of all time. But him suddenly as Knuckles, I kind of love that. I liked Sonic the first film, by the way, and I don't think it was a classic, but I actually thought it was pretty decent. And I remember expecting essentially nothing from it, and then thinking this is actually a pretty decent, solid family kind of film. Good fun. I've got a relatively decent tale as well. Actually, I know someone kind of vaguely who worked on the first Sonic film by a family friend, and about 2 weeks after that initial reveal of Sonic came out, do you remember the one that had us all hiding behind the sofa because it was terrible? Yeah. We addressed that with someone who worked for them, worked on that, and they said they were mortified because they knew it was going to happen, but obviously, it was all focus groups who told them to redesign it, and that person showed me on their phone how he was meant to look in their opinion, which is remarkably like what it ended up being, because that's what they wanted to, but it was rejected. So I remember, because I ended up developing a personal connection when we worked with it, thinking, I really want this to do well, because obviously, the people behind it put an awful lot of love into it, then they were overruled and told it should look like this instead, and then they went back to it, and it was nice, a nice vindication of sticking to, at least partially, because the game wasn't exactly in Green Hills, but the film wasn't exactly set in Green Hills, but still they stuck with what Sonic was as a character, and eventually went back, and it was nice to see, I guess, the public pressure result in something truer to the actual film, the game, and be a positive success. I mean, where are you at with Sonic 2? Did you enjoy the first film? You looking forward to this? What do you think of this casting?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the first film. I'm glad the second one happened because obviously when the first one came out, it was right before lockdown, and its first weekend and like the start of the second week was doing really well. And then every cinema shut down. Sure. And there's like, this isn't going to make anywhere near the money it could have made in the box office. Like, it was on track to be the best grossing box office video game movie ever, and then obviously didn't get to do that because of the lockdown. So the worry initially was that the sequel be scrapped because it didn't make enough. It
still did $300 million despite all that, which is impressive.
Which is crazy. But yeah, and it helps that it's fun. It's a fun movie. I was expecting, again, based on that initial trailer, even though obviously, like you say, the people working behind it were kind of, their hands were tied, it gave you that initial kind of feeling as like, whoever's in charge of this doesn't get it, and it's like this could be bad. But when they kind of reversed it and U-turned and went back to like a good Sonic look, I was like, okay, I'll give it a chance, and it was brilliant. It was excellent. Idris Elba is like a master stroke. That's a genius. Although it did also prove that the internet will happily moan about absolutely anything. I saw someone online saying, "Why have they get Idris Elba doing Knuckles?" And someone's like, "Well, why not?" Is that, well, why did they get? Why a British actor? Why did they get a British actor to do Knuckles? And everyone's like, and he's like, why could they not get a native actor to play Knuckles? I'm like, well, because you don't get many echidnas that do voice acting.
They're not knocking about, really, to be honest, mate. If you can find one, I'm sure.
Right.
I'm going to say that if you could find one that does voice acting, I'm pretty certain they would choose that echidna. Yeah, because I mean, that's a story in itself. I mean, I'm sure they did look, but they barely got a grumble out of the echidna.
Well,
this is
their agents are
casting.
famously the echidna's agents are famously tricky, spiny customers.
Spiky characters. Yeah. But but like, to be honest, I love this casting. I think it's bold, it's interesting. He'll bring a gruffness potentially to the character, especially that we know as well. By the way, if you haven't been paying attention, Tails is going to be in it as well. Knuckles and big spoilers here. So if you somehow care about a Sonic the movie spoiler, haven't yet seen it, switch off for like the next 20 seconds. At the end of the film, of course, we see Jim Carrey, who was inspired as Dr. Robotnik in Green Hills as well, into the Sonic universe. Yeah. So. Back to the non-spoilery bit. It's implied that there's going to be much more of the Sonic world in this, given the trailers so far that we've seen. I can't wait. I'm hoping it does move towards the actual Sonic world. I don't want to see him back in San Francisco. I don't want to see him back in America again, unless they really have to. But I do want to see it be a little bit weird. I want it to be. I don't. Yeah, even though it worked the first time, you do want to see this whole world. You do want to see, Mr. Eggman and all the trapped animals in like captured machines and all that kind of stuff. And
it looks like at least part of it will be in Earth, because the only set photo we've seen so far is what was filmed in a kind of street with like stand-ins for Tails and Knuckles, just for like eye levels for the actors. So there will be a bit, but presumably based on like the rumblings from, again, very mild spoilers from the very first movie, ends with Tails arriving on Earth looking for Sonic, like after the credits. So I would imagine the movie will start with Tails finding Sonic and saying, "Come on," and then them hopefully then going to Green Hill Zone or wherever, like Sonic's world, and then turn it into a proper Sonic movie. That's the hope.
I love it
because they've done Sonic. They've done Sonic in the human world. Why doesn't he bring his pal, thingy James? What's his face? And bring Marsden and bring him into Sonic's world. Then so you still get your fish out of water scenario, but it's flipped on its head, and then we can get some loop the loops going.
That's what we want. Really. We want 2 hours of that. Tails flapping about with his weird little tails and
getting tired after 15 seconds.
15 seconds, drooping down slowly straight into that purple gunk or whatever it was. Over in the what was the chemical zone called? I forgot what it was called. I've forgotten the name.
Yeah.
Chemical plant, which I hate that level with a passion. Either way, I'm hoping. I think we're seeing more general rumblings of this, and I think it's mainly because obviously the video game industry has matured quite a lot over the past 30 years, and maybe people understand it a little bit better. But there does seem to be that the worlds of film and video games are starting to mesh ever so slightly better these days, because Detective Pikachu was a pretty decent film as well. Even the latest Tomb Raider one was a bit boring, but it was still a passable film. It was genuinely a passable film. Let's see what happens with Uncharted with Tom Holland as well. That would be interesting. But I do like seeing video game films because they're fun. And hopefully this one's good. Let's go on to PlayStation Plus, because this is an interesting story, basically. Sony may be planning to add a new premium tier of PlayStation Plus, which includes a Crunchyroll subscription. That's according to a Eurogamer report, which claims there are plans to offer Crunchyroll as part of a more expansive PS Plus subscription. Sony announced in December 2020 that it was planning to acquire Crunchyroll for $1.175 billion. This acquisition was officially completed earlier this week, with Sony announcing in a press statement that Crunchyroll was now part of its Funimation global group company. Now it seems that Sony is considering offering Crunchyroll access to PlayStation Plus subscribers as part of a premium subscription. Crunchyroll, and I didn't know this personally, is an anime streaming service which was originally founded in 2006 by a group of university graduates. The service offers over 1,000 anime shows, has over 120 million registered users across more than 200 countries. And the reason this has caught a lot of attention is because back in April, Sony confirmed it was testing a new PlayStation Plus Video Pass Pass service over in Poland. The service allows PS4 and PS5 users in Poland to access around 20 movie and television shows from Sony Pictures as part of PS Plus subscriptions, with more content being added every 3 months. So I guess, largely speaking, this all hints at video and Sony and some kind of subscription service, and essentially the world of video on demand getting messier and messier and messier with every a new rival every day, man. Everyone's got a video subscription service these days. What's your reaction to this story, the significance of it? Are we seeing the tentative steps here? Well, not even tentative anymore. They spent over £1 billion of video coming to PlayStation.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about it, to be honest. It certainly looks like that way. It's going that way. And if these reports end up being true, then this new kind of... It's the premium thing that I think is going to kind of... We're going to have to wait and see what's happening. Because certainly, this is purely anecdotal, but when we reported on it and we tweeted the link to the story, all the responses were, no chance. There were basically people just saying, no, I'm not paying extra for anything. So I think it's going to be a hard sell if they're planning on adding entertainment packages, even if it's stuff like Crunchyroll, which obviously anime has a kind of is popular among a large part of the gaming population. It's going to have to be quite a sell, because otherwise it looks like a lot of people are going to be like, no, I'm already paying enough.
I wouldn't. I don't see Crunchyroll whatsoever. Yeah.
So yeah, it remains to be seen if this is a solution, but it may just be the start. They might have Crunchyroll plus this, plus this, plus this. But for now, I don't really know what they're planning. And it's odd because it seems like a kind of 180 from what the situation was last generation, where early doors, Xbox was being criticised heavily for focusing on media a lot. And on entertainment apps and all this kind of stuff, and people are saying just bring us the games. So if Sony is really planning on adding entertainment and media as a kind of extra incentive for PlayStation Plus, I think it's going to be met with a bit of resistance from people who are just like, we just want more gaming content, please. So PlayStation fans are waiting for their Game Pass, and PlayStation Now is massively out of date compared to Game Pass, and I think a lot of people would rather have a more effective PlayStation Now rather than adding video PlayStation Plus. I think
it does feel like and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't like Sony relatively recently, I don't know how recent it was, but didn't they announce plans to essentially produce loads of like PlayStation, not TV stuff basically, or films or whatever? Because they've obviously got the Uncharted film, and they've done I've remembered that right, haven't they? They're planning to use their IPs for film and so on. And do you think it's a case of where they'll try and put them on this service? What have they announced anything so far other than Uncharted? I can't really remember. It was just the intention to announce things.
Nothing springs to mind. I mean, if they have. It's been forgotten by me, at least. I don't speak for myself. I'm fairly sure Uncharted is the first of these, but I mean, it opens up in the future. You could get like a God of War movie. Obviously, you've got the Last of Us TV series.
Is that part? That would make sense, wouldn't it?
I'm not sure if it is part of it. I think that's purely... Is it HBO that's doing that? I can't remember if it's HBO. So I don't know if that's a separate thing that they've licensed out to HBO and has nothing to do with Sony PlayStation Studios or whatever they're planning on calling this thing.
PlayStation movie and TV show. There we go. I've just found an article. There was some suggestions about Ghost of Tsushima at one point. I feel like I saw something. Uncharted, obviously, The Last of Us. I did hear something once apparently about the idea of a Ghost of Tsushima thing. I mean, there's loads going on. But either way, I wouldn't be surprised if they see this as a natural home with it. I mean, everyone always tries to diversify into loads of things. And, I mean, the on-demand stuff for Disney has been relatively successful, obviously because of the pandemic and people not wanting to go back to the cinemas. But I bought a couple of films on there. I hadn't intended to, a couple of glasses of wine later, and then like, 20 quid, we'll just do it, and like I watched, Black Widow or whatever on. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony thinking, maybe Uncharted on demand, there's an easy revenue source there, but then maybe if it's also part of it, if you're paying extra month, who's going to, I don't know. It's
interesting because they recently, they said this year that as of at the end of this month, actually, as of the 31st of August, they're ditching all video rental and on demand on their site. So, on the PlayStation Store just now, you can rent movies and buy movies. That's all getting wiped at the end of the month. so there'll just be no movies on it anymore. It'll just be games. So it'll be interesting to see what they do when like Uncharted comes out, the movie, whether they then try and double back on that, or whether they include it as part of some sort of premium PlayStation Plus thing as one of your bonus. I don't know. The whole thing's a mess.
I don't think they know. Maybe they do know what they're doing, but they don't publicly know what they're doing yet, if that makes sense. It seems to be a lot of pieces that aren't yet put together. And I'm sure in the background, Sony know what they're doing because they're Sony. They're super successful. But at the moment, the picture's relatively messy out front anyway, publicly. So we'll see. We'll see. Good news for anime fans, though, and Sony fans, of course, overall. Final news story of the day. WWE 2K 2022 is looking fantastic following a complete rebuild of the series' gameplay engine, it has been claimed. Forbes writer Brian Mazik claimed during his latest YouTube discussion stream that he'd spoken to people familiar with the game's development who informed him that things were looking promising. Brian said, "I've actually spoken with people who have good knowledge of the game and understand what's happening from a developmental standpoint, and what I'm told about gameplay at this point is that it is fantastic." That is actually the word that was used for the latest build. The people who are playing the latest build have said gameplay is fantastic. Anybody who was talking about gameplay at this point is probably somewhat close to 2K, so you've got to take it with a grain of salt, but I've been told the gameplay is fantastic and the gameplay engine is completely rebuilt. He later added, "I also heard that the controls are much cleaner than they have been before." Now, what cleaner means, I don't know, but the last thing that I heard about this is that it feels like a wrestling fan's wrestling game, which is really interesting, actually. I know you're a wrestling fan, Chris. I've not really played. I was at one point. I've not really played any wrestling games for an awful long time, but, you know, if you've been following VGC, you would have some point heard all references to No Mercy and so on. They're one of the greatest games of all time, period. Never mind just in wrestling. Obviously, the context of this whole thing is that, was it WWE 2K20 that was an absolute, it was a car crash of a game, unfortunately.
It was a catastrophe,
brilliantly memeable. But unfortunately not brilliantly playable. And that, of course, then led to a year off, essentially, to revamp the series and revamp the game, get it back into a good place. So what do you make of this report? Of course, we have to take it with a pinch of salt, but you would expect and hope that it should be pushing true, given the fact that they've had the time and given the backlash. I mean, it has to be true, doesn't it, given the last game?
Given that they've had 2 years now to do this, because obviously they famously scrapped WWE 2K21 so they could go back to the drawing board, basically, and in that time they brought out WWE Battlegrounds, which is like a weird crap arcade game thing, which wasn't very good at all.
It is.
I
even played it pissed for a laugh, thinking it'd be fun, but I was like, this is boring, and I was drunk, you know. Even that didn't get me then.
Do you know, despite being thoroughly unimpressed by it, I now have it on like 3 systems, because I reviewed the Switch version. And then for like, they were selling the Xbox version off really cheap. I says, "Look, I'll get it for the achievements for like a tenner." And then they added it to PlayStation Plus this month. So I ended up with like 3 copies of a game I'm not that fussed about. But yeah, so there was that. But yeah, 2K20 was an absolute disaster. And wrestling game fans, of which I've been a self-confessed one for decades now, love to moan about absolutely everything. I mean, a lot of video game fans.
We all love to moan,
but they seriously moan. Like any time a game comes out, even the vast majority of them that have come out, I've been like, "This is all right, actually." But then you go online, everyone's like, "This is terrible. Total revamps needed." Total. So that it sounds like finally a total revamp has happened. They brought in a new director for the whole thing, and he basically said he talked a good game last year on Reddit and said that he wanted them to be inspired by No Mercy and stuff like SmackDown, just bring it on the PS2, and that's the kind of era they want to go back to. So
that is the golden era, isn't it? Those two mesh together, and you've got everyone's happy. You know, I mean, I'm still more towards No Mercy there, but SmackDown was still a great game, undeniably fun.
And if I can get massively nerdy and wrestling speak for a minute, like it's actually an interesting. It sinks in quite well with real life wrestling. I say real life because the WWE is just struggling just now, and this AEW, which is their rival competitor, is now getting really good. And there's an AEW game.
The Attitude Era, man. That's what it is. I was for a long time. Yeah, a long time. I used to be subscribed to Power Slam. Do you remember that magazine? I used to read it. Like it was like a wrestling industry magazine. And it tells you who was signing for different different brands and all that kind of stuff. And I remember I was reading about wrestling over in like Japan and stuff like that, and I remember hearing when people like Raven was signing for the WWF. I was like, oh, it's gonna be exciting because he's known as really really cool in ECW and stuff like that. And then obviously they turned him into comedy characters and they wasted so much talent and stuff. But I mean, I've just not watched it for an awful long time. But in my defense, I think it got got quite boring, if I'm being honest. And like they do have a relatively identity crisis where it's become so family friendly and so soft.
Well, they've had no competition for the longest time, because when they bought WCW in like 2001, 2002, that killed the competition at that point. And it was like when nobody's up against you, you can do whatever you want. And then they appealed to family friendly and all this kind of stuff. So now this AEW has turned up and they're getting their own game, which is being directed by one of the main guys behind No Mercy. And the early footage they've shown looks just like a modern No Mercy, and it looks fantastic. So the pressure's on 2K to deliver something good with this 2K22. And even if it doesn't end up being phenomenal, but it's like a positive first step, because this is essentially, hopefully this is them starting from the drawing board, going back to the drawing board and starting from step one all over again. So even if they've built some solid foundations in this one, that's enough for me, I think. As long as it plays well and it looks the part.
What has it made No Mercy so good in your opinion? Like, because obviously it's quite an old game now. A lot of people haven't played it again. What's the spirit that they have to capture that makes it such a fantastic game?
It's the combat system, the grappling system in it, because you can make the characters look as photorealistic as you like, and you can have all the right music and the commentary and all that, but if it's not fun to play, No Mercy is one of those few ones where you actually got the feeling of momentum and the feeling of like a kind of back and forth going on, where the reversal system was really perfectly tuned, so and you could reverse attacks or you could reverse grapples, and you had to decide which one it was, and you had to time it perfectly. And you could get once you'd kind of gained momentum, you could build that momentum, and it felt like real. Do you know
what I loved about it?
Show.
It felt like it was wrestling in the way that you could throw your opponent out the ring, and he could stand there just taunting and doing your things and getting your special meat to fill up. But that is exactly what they kind of did in wrestling anyway. When their opposition thing was down, they taught it a little bit, got the crowd hyped up, and then they bring out their special move or whatever, and bring out Tombstone or whatever, something like that. But that was what I loved, that because even though you felt you were spamming the taunting, it kind of in real wrestling, the crowd when the crowd's at its biggest point, that is when they usually do that kind of stuff. So it made an awful lot of sense. Like it made sense within the game to do that, because it also made sense within the real world of how wrestling actually happens and stuff. I hope they get it right, because obviously good wrestling games are just great fun. They just are great fun. Yeah. I don't know what the roster's going to be like or that kind of stuff. I hope they can get some of the classics back in there still.
Well, I think they're going to have to, because they've been letting people go left, right, and centre, like in real life, and to the point that I think a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, there's going to be nobody in it at this rate." But the way it's happened in the past is it depends on when their contract was terminated. I think a lot of people who have recently let go will still be in the game, because I think there's some sort of cut-off point where anyone who is terminated from the company, if they were still there when this cut-off point was there, then they'll still be in the game, because WWE owns all their characters, even if they leave. So I'm not concerned too much.
Is there any big names that I possibly know have left recently?
Bray Wyatt recently left, who was like the Fiend. He was like the big name they were pushing for a while. The Big Show left fairly recently.
Is he still going?
The
old show.
Rumors that Daniel Bryan might be leaving. So there's like kind of big names that are on their way. But I think they'll all, certainly Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt will still be in there. I would imagine it's too late to take them out. But they'll have to start putting a lot of legends back in again. Although to their credit, they've been doing that a lot in previous games too.
Yeah.
The last few had like shitloads of old wrestlers in it, so which I prefer. I prefer the kind of the older era.
Yeah, like I want to. Yeah, of course I want to play as I don't know, Mankind.
I mean, you can have like the Big Boss Man versus the Ultimate Warrior. Who cares?
Exactly. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that? Yeah, sod. I don't know. John Cena. I don't even know if he's even in it still anymore. I don't think he is. Is he in it anymore? Probably not. I don't know. Either way, has he come back? His acting's doing pretty well for him. He doesn't even need it anymore, does he? But fair play to John Cena getting back in the old ring.
I'll give him a shout and say.
Yeah, just text him for us if that's all right. He's saying, "Well done, John. You did the right thing. Give the people what they want." Bring swearing back to wrestling. Also, I'm saying, man, it makes it 10 times more fun. It does. You want blood, you want swearing, and you want people hitting people with chairs. It's not complicated. That's it.
You want 8-year-olds going to school with D-Generation X t-shirts that say "suck it" on them. So
just doing that.
So the teachers are just like, what's going on?
The Attitude Era was pure pompous, brilliant fun. It just was. It was absolutely great fun.
But could you imagine? Could you imagine if they tried it nowadays? Though there's not a chance in hell they would get. At the risk of quoting Vince McMahon, no chance in hell. You consider, and some of it is best kept in the past when you look at kind of some of the brand panties,
especially the Generation X stuff
like that, which were a bit tasteless.
It's funny though, because even as a hormonal teenage boy, that's kind of stuff I don't even think about. I actually just think of the actual wrestling and the fights. Like,
it's funny, I think even as sorry, go.
No, I was going to say, I think of Shane McMahon jumping off the Titantron and all that kind of stuff, and I think of all that kind of thing, and The Rock and Chris Jericho's entrance, and Andy's going to be fuming, by the way, he's turning into a wrestling podcast.
I know. We'll
but he's not here, so it doesn't matter.
Spin-off. I know. But yeah, even as a teenager, I was like, when they did those kind of gratuitous, like, women in underwear matches, you were just like,
yeah, you kind of knew.
I
wasn't
like,
complaining.
I know why they're doing this.
Yeah, they were just appealing to me as a teenage boy. But even then, I was like, it was obvious. And I remember thinking, even then, I was like, they're taking the piss a bit here, aren't they? But that is, that kind of stuff you have to pass. But definitely, I definitely want people like Mick Foley, but not him, but someone with that charisma, like on the edge of sanity with his character, and it was wonderful. It was visceral and exciting. Hopefully this game will capture the spirit of that era. Guys, we've reached the end of this episode of VGC Off The Record. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to let Chris get back to mowing those lawns, because they don't mow themselves, You can go check out the first 20 minutes of the first play over on VGC, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more coming your way soon, including super cool 90s ninja rants. Guys, thanks for watching or listening via YouTube or, of course, your podcast provider. For now, though, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you very, very soon.